Hey folks, so after watching and reviewing the Studio Ghibli anime Pompoko last week, I felt like moving on to not one but two films that I mentioned in that video. Those being this, Grave of the Fireflies, and also this, My Neighbour Totoro, more classic animes by legendary Studio Ghibli. Even though this film is completely different in tone to this film. For starters, I'm going to explain why I watched these two films back to back the other day. When on the original theatrical release in Japan in 1988, they were actually shown as a double feature. This film by Isao Takahata being very tragic and depressing in nature, while this film by Hayao Miyazaki being much more happy and light-hearted. I guess they felt that the reason for this strange combination was that Grave of the Fireflies would be too depressing on its own and would need a lighter accompaniment. I had seen both films multiple times on their own, though Totoro twice as many times as Fireflies. But I wanted to try them as a double feature as it sounded an amazing idea, so in this video I'll be talking about my recent experience specifically. So naturally I watched Grave of the Fireflies first, though here on the original release some cinemas showed Totoro before Grave of the Fireflies, which only makes you wonder what the hell they were thinking. It's basically about a boy called Seita and his little sister Setsuko and their struggle for survival at the end of World War II. The film focuses on the Pacific front of the war, the conflict between Japan and the USA. It opens with the ghost of Seita standing against a totally black background as he solemnly says, September 21st, that was the night I died. And from that moment you know this is going to be a challenging film. Then it starkly cuts to the original Seita puddled on the ground at a train station, looking like proper ravaged and weak, clutching a sweets tin that related contains the ashes of his dead. He dramatically keels over and dies among the other miscellaneous dead bodies. And the wardens come by and they're just like, well, no one bites the dust innit? And one of them just chucks the ashes outside like they're nothing. Then in what I find the lightest part of the film, Setsuko's smiling ghost is reunited with Seita and they board an empty train. A ghost train if you will. With this absolutely beautiful track as you can hear playing in the background, and the soundtrack of both films are amazing by the way. So in an unusual move, the director decided to show the end of the film at the start. To reveal at the start that both kids are going to die so as to soften the blow of what's to come later. And to offer comfort in the idea that they've gone on to a better place. I'm not going to talk about everything that happens in the film, as it would be very hard for me to relive it all so soon. So I'll say that what basically follows is Seita's ghost giving us a flashback of his terrible experience, occasionally giving some narration. The story is how the end of the war killed both his and Setsuko's mother from bombings by the Americans. That early part of the film hit me especially close this time, since I also lost my mother a while ago. Then later their father from fighting in the Navy, then Setsuko and Seita himself both from starvation, a whole family wiped out by war. An important aspect about the film that's noticeable from early on is that with the hardship and suffering that the bombings by the Americans caused the civilians, Takahata could have conveyed a message to the audience that like those Americans bombed the shit out of us. Even dropped a few atomic bombs on us, like you should hate those dumb Yanks. But he seems to blame the Japanese government of the time just as much. But it comes off as more of an anti-war film in general, and a very strong one at that. But Takahata actually denied any anti-war message. He even denied it being a tragedy. Was like, I didn't mean to make people cry. But like most people who watch it are going to see it that way. And I'm going to find it quite upsetting. Your boy here for one cried quite a bit. Before I move on, I just want to highlight another sad thing about the film. But obviously the Japanese were pretty pissed about being bombed, particularly the atomic bombings. And as a result they turned on each other, becoming more and more distrustful and selfish. Prime examples in the film being the bitchy aunt who they're forced to live with after their mum passes away, who's such a coward to them that Sato decides that he'd rather live in a cave instead. And the farmer who, after catching a desperate satyr trying to steal just a handful of his crops, he proceeds to give him a savage beating. Also, to address the title Grave of the Fireflies, the Fireflies feature in the film throughout, but Setsuko loves them, but are known for their short lifespan. It's like Sato and Setsuko shine bright in their short lives. It can be seen as the metaphorical fireflies of the title. In conclusion, I highly recommend this film. It's great, but very sad. So I also seriously recommend that you're not already depressed when you watch it. But probably not like proper happy either, but like in a neutral mood. So like in my previous viewings of this film, I watched the credits to the very end in like a speechless, paralysed state. But this time I paused a while, took a deep breath, swapped the DVDs in my player, because now it's time for something completely different. So My Neighbour Totoro opens unusually with an animated credits accompanied by this light-hearted piece of music there, setting a very different tone from the off. This film is set some years after the war in a rural area in 1950s Japan. So I feel that aside from the much lighter tone, another reason why Totoro should be watched second is that it feels like a sort of sequel to Grave of the Fireflies in that better times have arrived. It follows a dad and his two daughters as they move proper out to a house in the countryside. Their only neighbour being a kindly lady they call Granny, who is actually the granny of a boy who fancies Satsuki. The elder of the two sisters, the younger named Mei. Like I said earlier, the film instantly put me in a much better mood than I was at the end of the film, showing that this film will have a much lighter and happier tone. Not as much plot as Fireflies, the base of it being that just the dad has moved to this little house with his two daughters to be closer to their mum, who is in the local hospital recovering from tuberculosis, according to Wikipedia at least. That's it really, because this film it doesn't really need to be much plot, because it really is just a lovely film where the sisters meet the local forest spirit. The main one being this big furry guy Totoro, who their dad calls the king of the forest. But the thing is that only Mei and later Satsuki can see them, well, them and their local Neko boss, who is the cat boss to us Westerners. Well, like I said in my Pompoko review, the Japanese have a mythology that animals such as the raccoon dogs of that film, foxes and indeed cats can shapeshift into anything they choose. This cat here decided to turn into a bus. Anyway, the film is really about the precious sense of wonder and imagination that's unique to childhood, that we sadly lose as we get older, and I think that this is the reason why only the two girls can see Totoro and his friends. The thin plot being a canvas, if you will, for that loveliness to play out. A noteworthy aspect of My Neighbour Totoro is that there's about 30 minutes of scene setting, when the family move to and settle into the house, meet Granny, start attending the local school, where the dad commutes to lecture at a city university, and visit their mother in the hospital before any scenes where any forest spirits appear. I guess that this is because they needed to properly set the scene, but also because if Totoro had appeared in the first 5 minutes, it would have been pretty jarring in a film that's mainly based in reality. They do encounter these little balls of dust with eyes called soot sprites, or the susuwatai by the Japanese, according to Wikipedia at least, that the family evict in a sort of ritualistic laughter scene, and this cosy atmospheric music starts playing. Personally, I'm a laid back kind of person, so I love the slow paced and chill nature of this film. that is almost devoid of any conflict or drama. And it makes it all the more nice and cosy when May stumbles upon Totoro for the first time in his den. I'd like to highlight that though they laugh at May's futile efforts to lead them to Totoro and his friend, the dad at least acknowledges their existence and that of other forest spirits. And so in another lovely scene where they go for a walk in the woods, they pay their respects at a shrine. This belief in spirits of nature and shape-shifting animals, making me think of parts of Japanese culture being similar to old pagan religions of the West. And in yet another lovely scene, the girls are dreaming that the seeds that Totoro gave Satsuki grow into a huge camphor tree after some ritualistic dancing by the girls, Totoro and his friends. This I feel is just Miyazaki giving a warm nod to the innocence and imagination of childhood. As I said earlier, it's not your dramatic plot-driven film. It's more about transmitting lovely and cosy vibes. The only real drama being when May goes missing and trying to deliver corn all by herself to her mum in the hospital. And Satsuki, Granny and all the other townspeople searching for her to no avail. And Satsuki having a cry about her mother to Granny earlier. Or at least one bad thing had to happen. This is based in the real world after all. Spoiler alert, Satsuki finds May with the help of the cat bus after finding Totoro and begging him for help. In conclusion, I proper love this film, as you may have gathered. I'd give it 6 out of 5 if I could. And like I said at the start, I've watched My Neighbour Totoro many times on its own, and Grave of the Fireflies only twice. And indeed one can easily view Totoro as an individual feature. I heartily recommend that if you plan to watch Grave of the Fireflies, and I recommend you do it at least once for its important message, that it's well worth having a copy of this on hand to cheer yourself up afterwards, as it may take some days to get over seeing Grave of the Fireflies on its own. Like if you're a millennial like me, you may remember Sonic 3 coming out, and maybe feeling it was rather short but sweet. Then Sega dropped Sonic and Knuckles later that year, which at the time I thought was Sonic 4. But apparently it was really the second half of the game, turning it into this like super game. But I'll say that this is the cinematic equivalent of... I think it's the best double feature ever. A real emotional rollercoaster. I'm currently on a Studio Ghibli kit, so my next video may or may not be about another... But if you've made it this far, thank you, I appreciate it, and hope to see you in the next one, folks.